Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome back to our second Facebook Live. As always, I want this to be interactive, so go ahead and let me know where you're tuning in from. We really want to hear from you. Again, I'm in Baltimore in my house, and I have joining us today, Rich from Com Partners, our CEO. He so kindly joined us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Hey, Kate. It's a lot of fun to do. Yeah.
Where are you guys located?
So we're in Columbia, Maryland, about 20 miles from you, in between Baltimore and Washington. And like all of us, we're working out of our homes, and but we're all connected in this way and in many other ways. So it's nice to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you doing to keep kind of sane during this isolation?
Well, we got a new puppy, and for us, our kids are grown, and so it was a little bit quiet, and we had time, right? We're not going anywhere. So we decided that, we're going to, it looks like about 8, 12, 16 weeks. So it's perfect time to train a dog, plenty of walking your dog time. So I think that was a good move. I'm pretty sure it was a little spontaneous, but I think it's going to work out.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, I actually just applied to get a dog. They said it might be about 3 weeks before I hear, but maybe I will.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have our dogs join us one time.
That would be great.
Yeah. So again, please go ahead and comment. Let me know where you're coming from and what you're doing to keep sane. Because as I said last time, I'm going to need some help. I wallpapered this weekend, so that's one project down.
That's good.
Thanks. It's strange. I didn't realize how hard wallpapering was, but apparently it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of dive right in. And as I said, just keep on commenting and we will, touch base and say hi to you guys as we go through. But today we're really going to focus on monetizing a virtual conference. It's a lot of questions we've been getting and probably going to focus most on sponsorships because I think that's a lot of places where people are having concerns. So, first I just want to, again, welcome everybody for coming. This is a weekly live chat every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. You can chat with me about how we're going to be doing virtual conferences now in this kind of interesting tech age. And you can always ask me questions on our chat or on email. We always are taking email questions at marketing@compartners.com, just so that we're making sure that we're addressing things that are important to you. So first, Rich, let's talk about virtual exhibit halls. I know we've had a lot of interest in virtual exhibit halls, and it's a huge point of revenue with a conference is having sponsors and vendors in an exhibit hall. So how can our our viewers watching, fix that issue?
Sure. No, I mean, this is understandable since so much of an on-site conference is the support of those of your vendors or your commercial supporters, and making sure that as you transition to a virtual format, that you can support the investment that they're making through a virtual conference environment. You can you can support both sponsors and exhibitors. Of course, there's a variety of platforms within our platform. You can place sponsorship throughout the platform in all the pages, as well as the initial page. You can rotate sponsors, but I think one of the most meaningful way to engage sponsors is through these sessions themselves. As opposed to in a on a place-based event. You can place signage and support for those sponsors in many different places. In the sessions with a virtual event, most of that time is going to be spent in the session. So if you have a dynamic session platform, it allows you to in a pretty significant way present those sponsors either through pre-recorded videos, live interviews. You can include sponsors on the right side of the screen in a webcast and feature them throughout the program. So there's a lot of ways to bring them forward and make them part of those sessions. The other thing that we're working with our clients on is setting up sponsor sessions that parallel education sessions. And I'm rambling, so just tell me if I'm talking too much, Kate, but once you get me talking, I just keep going. So the idea is to give them, I know when we were a sponsor at a virtual conference with Zagoras last year, one of the best things for us was to have our own session and invite all the attendees to join our session and have that time with that audience. And that's something that can easily be done in the virtual conference environment where you set up, let's say you have 10 sponsors, set up 10 parallel sessions and have each a specific time. And then you are dedicated with, you have that relationship with those attendees. They're choosing to attend. And then you're able to have those attendees as leads for potential follow-up. So that's a great way to engage, support those sponsors as well.
Yeah. And I think one of the key things coming from an on-site event planning background is that the whole reason everyone comes to conferences is to have that human interaction. And, going virtual doesn't mean that you lose all that human interaction. It just means it's different. I know that we have been doing chat with the sponsors or the exhibitors through what we call chat roll in their little exhibit booths. But that's just one way of being able to connect the attendees and the sponsors in a kind of a virtual platform. Are there other ways that we've found that the attendees are connecting with the sponsors?
Yeah, I think the one that you mentioned, so the idea of their place within the platform, right? Whether it's, originally, I would say 10, 15 years ago, was the idea that we're going to have what looked like a conference hall and try to replicate what happened on site. And then I think we've become more sophisticated to the online participant, because we come from an online education background. So knowing that sitting by yourself at a screen is dramatically different, we want to be able to present visually and programmatically opportunities for them to engage both in sessions as well as with exhibits and sponsors. So the way that we do it is create a unique page, in a sense, a microsite for each exhibitor or sponsor, and with the opportunity to engage with live during those attendee day, during those conference days with the booth participant, and bring the attendees together with the people manning that booth so they have meaningful interaction. And then there would be the opportunity to, hey, this seems like something you want to talk about more in depth. Let's meet in my room, and you can set up a Zoom room for each exhibitor where those conversations can take place one-on-one. So combining, I think, the exhibit presentation, the sponsorship, the opportunity to engage one-on-one or engage through the sessions, together you can kind of formulate a really meaningful experience for those supporters of your conference.
Yeah. And I just went ahead and we shared one of our exhibit halls that we did recently, and it was really successful. And the one we showed there, it housed so many things. When you go to an exhibit hall in a conference, you're finding print materials. Sometimes they have videos playing in the background. You're talking to people. We're incorporating all those things virtually and having them all in one place. And one of the great things that I know I love about it is the exhibit hall is open 24/7. There are no more exhibit hours. You can access this information at any time. As an attendee, I think that is really valuable. But as a sponsor, I think that's something that is huge for ROI is, we are getting people coming to our site whenever they're available, not when the hours are there. It's a really cool feature.
Yeah. And one of the examples, so right when this happened 4 weeks ago, people obviously started to panic. And we've had a huge influx of organizations, both our current clients and new organizations. But one was the Society of Public Health Educators. And I think you put up a screenshot, but they had about 10 days to turn this around. So we needed to not only, get all their sessions loaded, configure the days, the tracks, and set up their exhibits. So we had a very short time to do that. But one of the things that they did, I think, really well was continue the whole momentum of their on-site conference and convert it to a virtual experience. So we did set up an exhibit hall for them, and each of their sponsors, again, had their own place to connect. And I think, but the other thing I wanted to mention, what they did was, instead of trying to cram everything into a few days, I think they had, I can't remember exactly, but it was a huge number of sessions. They decided they're going to have several tracks on those event days, that they were going to have the place-based event. And then they took those sessions and stretched them out for 4 weeks. So instead of a couple of days of engagement, they had a whole month of this virtual conference experience. And that also enabled their exhibitors, their sponsors, to have that much more exposure for an extended period of time. And that brings value to them, and something that's really meaningful that you couldn't do in a place-based event.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we continue, I just want to remind everyone, go ahead and comment, ask your questions. Also, let us know where you are and where you're tuning in from. And, what concerns do you have as you're moving your events virtually? We really do want to hear from you. So you were mentioning Sophie, the client that we were just showing their website. And I think something that was really interesting, and we had kind of discussed a little bit, was that they had put in sponsor videos. Their team was starting to play those before each session. I think that's a great way of getting people's attention. And again, ROI for the sponsors. They need to know that what their money is that they're putting forward, that is going to actually, come back to them.
Right. I mean, I think what you're referring to, so the sessions, we think, why do people come to a conference, right? They come for obviously the education, the insights, the knowledge. They come to connect with others and to be inspired. And they also come to have fun. So when they're entering these sessions, one of the things that's been really valuable, I think, is to have a production environment which allows you to do creative things. One of those creative things is to feature your sponsor, either interview or pre-record their, something that they shot in advance, and play that in between sessions or before sessions, and really give them that exposure of your full, of the audience. So that's one thing. The other thing, just from and this deviates a little bit from the idea of sponsorship, but is to have to pre-record videos. I know many of you out there probably were planning to attend our Peak User Group conference. Last year, what we did was, and Kate, you can talk to this, we pre-recorded our staff with a fun kind of exercise to introduce our staff to the community. And before each session, we played those clips, and it got everybody laughing and just wanting them to enjoy the experience. I think breaking through and making them feel a part of a community is what this is all about. So doing those kinds of things from a production standpoint, and again, bringing in the sponsors and making them part of that, I think is a really good idea.
Yeah. Those videos were a hit. I'm still, every now and then I get, you were the girl that was going to go on The Bachelor, right? I'm like, no, I'm not going on The Bachelor.
We play that a lot.
We do play that video a lot. The fun videos that connect the audience, the sponsors, the speakers, all of those types of things, it just creates that human interaction. I also want to say hi to Chrissy. She's in Chicago joining us. Welcome. So aside from the sponsors, the other big half of the revenue generating program for a conference would be registration fees. And a lot of questions we've gotten are regarding whether they should be adjusting registration fees now that it's virtual. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know that, one of the conversations we had with Tracy King was that the content is still there, it's still relevant, and you're still getting the message across. It's just in a different format. So registration fees shouldn't change that much. What have you seen with the conferences we're working with and how they're handling that?
Sure. I think that is somewhat situational. And here's what I'm thinking about this. When education is the primary, if it's more of an academic conference and people are coming for those continuing education credits, and it's very much about that knowledge transfer, then I think really there's the value when you watch an online session and you see the panelist or you see the presenter, the moderator, you are getting very similar value as being on site. So if that's what it's about, for sure, I would say, charge the same. There's no hotel fees, there's no travel fees. The other thing is they can invite others within their community, whether it's in their organization or colleagues, to join them as a group. So, and you could offer certain group discounts. So you're expanding the audience and bringing more value instead of just that one attendee. Potentially, you can, in a way, extend your presence within those organizations, those member organizations. So the value could be a lot higher. Now, if people are coming for other reasons, networking, they're coming for career advancement, maybe it doesn't exactly align with coming on site for that full experience. So maybe you'll consider, in that case, maybe discounting it 30%, 40%. It really depends, I think, on the situation. I've seen our clients, for the most part, hold the line on their pricing. And instead, they're again saying, bring a colleague for half off, or invite 2 colleagues and include them in your rate, something like that, again, to bring value, to reach people that otherwise wouldn't be able to participate.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. As long as you're still getting what the person came for, whether they were on site or virtually, as long as they're still getting that end product, you should still be able to at least charge close to what you were going to make sure that you are hitting your margins. Absolutely. Yep. So I know something that we're going to talk about in next week's episode. I'm going to cover a little bit, but I thought it would be a really great opportunity for you to speak to this. Is subscriptions, basically. So you're charging a registration fee for this one-time virtual conference, but if you house all of that stuff in an LMS, then you're able to actually have a subscription that they are able to come back and relook at that content. Can you talk a little bit about the value of an LMS and the virtual conference and how that kind of all fits together and how it can be helping your profit margin?
Sure. So, what we're seeing is, organizations are creating quite a bit of content through these conferences, and we're thinking kind of an event by event mentality. And with all this content, and this is happening already in a short period of time, the question comes, okay, this is great for those months that we have the conference, but what's next? And we're seeing now this leads into that conversation of more of an enduring knowledge presence, where you can launch these virtual conferences within a framework of a consistent brand and identity through an LMS, but for each event have that, that what we call a design blade, or a unique design that highlights that experience. So if you can combine this event to event, especially when we think of a virtual format, combined with an ongoing resource that becomes this must-have, must-visit kind of site, then you really have something. And what many of our clients are doing now is they're launching these conferences right from their LMS. And what we're able to do is develop a unique microsite for them. And then it's not such a major, when you think of launching a virtual conference, I mean, it's still very significant, the project management, all the details that go into it, but at least you have a framework in which to start, and you have that, that resource where you can tap into that, at any time you can go launch whether it's a virtual conference or a webinar series, or it's a new micro learning program, whatever it might be, all within the confines of that site.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting that we're now moving into this different virtual age. So there are challenges, but there are also some really great resources that we can start using, like having the content live on these sites and being accessible to your attendees ongoing. So before we start wrapping things up, I do want to give the opportunity for our attendees here, for those viewers that are watching, please ask any question you have for Rich or for me, especially about monetizing your virtual conference. Go ahead and comment below. We really want to hear about and answer the questions that you may have. So while we're waiting for any of those comments to come in, Rich, are you getting any questions or any concerns or areas that you would like to discuss that, maybe the requests that we come in are coming in a lot?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we are in a, a time where everything before this, we the last 4 weeks have, for us, I mean, all of us are feeling this change, and all of us, in a sense, are feeling isolated and just trying to figure out really what this means for the future. And what we're hearing is that, even, initially it was a month or 2, 3 months. Now we're thinking it might extend beyond that. But what we're hearing organizations say is that we know that virtual is going to be an important part of what we do going forward. In a sense, it just extends that access. It makes yourself more approachable or available to those attendees that may not otherwise attend your place-based events. So now it's a strategy that we see organizations are thinking about. Sure, those in the mix, at least to have a couple virtual conferences to complement their place-based events. So I know that this is going to be important going forward, and for us and for our clients, we just want to be there. Right now, to be honest, we like all the other virtual conference and online education companies out there. I'm sure they're, responding as quickly as they can. And I know for us, we're receiving just an amazing number of organizations reach out. So we're grateful for that. We're trying to just follow up as soon as we can.
Yeah, and that's why we're providing this resource weekly. We know we can't get to everybody all the time, and I know it pains us sometimes not to be able to answer every single question. So we're hoping that in these platforms we're able to, and in these different ways, we're able to answer your questions. So I think we'll kind of wrap up here. It doesn't look like we have too many questions. I do want to remind everyone that a blog will be posted pertaining to this information. That way you have it on the Com Partners Resources website. We will make sure that we have that all linked up for you. Also, just remember that we are tuning in next week. We do this every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank Rich for joining us. I really do appreciate it. It's great to have your expertise here, and I'm sure it was great to talk to people. Oh, we just got somebody tuned in from San Diego. Oh, and then it looks like we've got a question. Go ahead and ask your question. Feel free. We still have time, so I want to make sure we're answering questions. It says she has a question regarding attendance. So go ahead and submit your question for that. I also want to take this opportunity to thank, I've mentioned it in the last episode, thank my production team. These, just like every event, it takes a team. And I can't stress that enough. With virtual events or with on-site events, it takes a team. So, I have a team in the background. I want to thank them for that. And of course, I want you all to take something away from this. So let's see, is there a difference in registration for conferences that are held over a traditional weekend or over a month? So if I'm understanding the question right, it's, what Sophie did where they put it a full month long versus just a couple days. Is there going to be a different registration fee? And I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but I feel like it would probably be case by case scenario. Are you changing the outcomes? Are you changing what you're getting, the attendees getting out of the conference?
Right. I think what Sophie did was, first of all, strategically is try to, fit into people's schedule, right? That's the question, right? Will people for four days, be at their computer? I mean, we all seem to be at our computers now for days on end, but so that's become the new normal, right? But can we, work, can we think strategically about maybe dividing up those hours and fitting into their other priorities that they have? And I think that kind of drives that decision. As far as what to charge, whether that's a different charge, I don't think that Sophie thought about it that way. I think they were charged the same either way. So dividing it up, instead of having, 6-10 tracks in one period, 1 3-day period, they just took those sessions and they moved them to different days. So theoretically, it was a similar amount of investment that they've made.
And she clarified that now that she's not referring necessarily to the fee, but rather the attendance number. And I can tell you that we haven't published it yet, but we did an interview with Sophie and their team, and they did tell us that they got just right on par for the normal conference that they would have gotten in person. They got virtual, so it did not change the attendance numbers as much as one might think. Because again, it's not that it's the event's not valuable anymore. It's just presented differently. Right. Great question, though. Absolutely.
Yeah, Kate, can I mention one more thing before we close it down? For us, just to and for our clients, so we are now pretty much at capacity for May and June. So just the advice that I would give is, if you're thinking about transitioning your conference, the main thing is just like putting on a wedding, right? You want to lock in those days and then work through all the logistics and everything you need to do from there. I would lock in the days, make sure you reserve that you have that set. Because there's many, less companies doing what we do than obviously on-site production companies and hotels and all the organizations that support place-based events. So to lock in those days ahead of time and then work the calendar up to through that. And certainly we'd love to help you do that.
Yeah, Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Rich, for joining us. Thank you, everyone else, for viewing. The blog will be posted hopefully tonight. And then we will be doing next week's episode on pairing your virtual conference with your LMS, kind of what we talked about with Rich, just kind of showing you how that would work and how it does make putting on a virtual conference now and in the future a little bit easier. So thank you guys for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.